Good morning. I am Mayor Milissa Holland, City of Palm Coast. I'd like to welcome everybody today to our Independent Day celebration at our Heroes Memorial Park. Please stand for the presentation of colors from our Palm Coast Fire Department Honor Guard. Can I have the council, City Council, please join me up here for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay. Wait. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will now hear from the Palm Coast Community Band. Is that correct? Yeah, you guys. Please remain standing.
Forward, march.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This preamble to the United States Declaration of Independence is the most potent statement in the history of American rights and freedom. It was enacted 241 years ago today, declaring the 13 American colonies as equally separated and free from the Kingdom of Great Britain. July 4th officially became a day when Americans celebrated the history and tradition of a new nation. President Woodrow Wilson once asked the citizens of our nation to translate the freedoms given to us in our Declaration of Independence in terms of their own lives. To read more common ideas into the complicated words of this document, here's how I would translate our freedoms as they relate to our city of Palm Coast. Consider when you are voicing your opinion to your neighbors and family, you are exercising your freedom. Consider when you vote in your city or county elections, you are exercising your freedom. Consider when you worship each week at the church or synagogue of your choice, you are exercising your freedom. Consider when you work to serve your community, you are exercise your freedom. Consider when we come together in Palm Coast to celebrate our diversity of so many distinct, colorful cultures, we are exercising our freedom. The excitement of today's holiday will go quickly. So please remember to exercise at least one of those freedoms granted to us so many centuries ago. America is proudly the richest country in the world, rich in culture, rich in entrepreneurial spirit and traditions, rich in determination and self-discipline. These are the American values that our military continues to fight for all over the world. So while we rejoice at our parades and picnics, we need to send prayers to our military who continue to fight around the world for our freedom. On behalf of our Palm Coast City Council, I thank you for exercising your freedom by attending our city's Independence Day celebration. Proudly salute at least one American flag today. Commit to memory the joy you will feel tonight at the spectacle of firework displays in our community. God bless our soldiers, God bless our community, and God bless America. I'd like to now call up for some remarks Randall Morris, who's the president of the Sons of the American Revolution Flagler chapter.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I begin to talk, I want to show you something that we have. We'll have it by the Liberty Tree, which is located in the back. It is the portrait collection of all of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. For those of you who do not know all of these individuals personally, I don't. You'll get a chance to meet all of them. Okay. I can see my notes are going to slide around. Fellow Americans, let us join our founding fathers in their journey toward liberty, leading to the drafting of the Declaration of Independence. The 1760s in colonial America found the colonists unhappy with the King's government policies directed solely at the American colonies, and they began to assert their desire for independence. Demonstrations led by colonists referred to as the Sons of Liberty were being held in every colony. The colonists held their meetings in the shadow of so-called Liberty trees. Thomas Paine celebrated the Liberty Tree in a poem published in 1775, and I would like to read you a couple of lines. Unmindful of names or distinctions they came, for free men like brothers agree. With one spirit endued, they one friendship pursued, and their temple was Liberty Tree. Obviously, the British authorities were not in favor of people who were advocating the overthrow of the government to use the public buildings of the time. There is a Liberty Tree donated by the Flagler chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution located in this park. Samuel Adams, a leader of the Sons of Liberty group in Boston, led many demonstrations culminating in late 1773 with the Tea Party in the harbor. In reaction to the Boston Tea Party, the King's Parliament enacted numerous laws restricting the conduct of the colonists. The colonists, in turn, called for a Congress to address their displeasure with the King's actions. The First Continental Congress met at Carpenter's Hall in Philadelphia in September and October of 1774, and on October the 20th adopted a document commonly referred to as the Articles of Association of 1774. This document was created in reaction to the intolerable acts the King's government had imposed on the colonies, and the document was comprised of a list of grievances the colonists held and what they were going to do in response. Over the next year, a war of words indeed ensued. In the summer of 1776, a Second Continental Congress met in Philadelphia to decide the case for liberty. Richard Henry Lee, a delegate from Virginia, proposed a document on June 7, 1776. This Lee resolution is considered to be the earliest draft of the Declaration of Independence. The delegates to the Congress recommended Lee write the final declaration. Lee, however, having already been selected as a member of the committee writing the Articles of Confederation, declined the appointment. He reasoned that being on both committees would be too great an effort. On June the 11th, 1776, Congress appointed John Adams of Massachusetts, Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania, Thomas Jefferson of Virginia, Robert R. Livingston of New York, and Roger Sherman of Connecticut to draft a declaration. This group became known as the Committee of Five. The Congress then asked John Adams to pen the final document. He declined and recommended Thomas Jefferson pen the final document. Jefferson at first refused, but after much persuasion from Adams, Jefferson relented and reluctantly agreed to pen the document. It took him 17 days to write this document under the advisement of the committee. The committee first presented the document to Congress on June 28, 1776. The committee operated from June the 11th, 1776 until July 5th, 1776, the day on which the document was published. Only one delegate signed that document on July 4th, 1776, John Hancock of Massachusetts. The last delegate to sign the document, Matthew Thornton of New Hampshire, signed it on November the 4th, 1776. The Committee of Five served the United States with particular distinction. John Adams of Massachusetts became the second President of the United States. Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania, easily the most famous of the Founding Fathers, was the first U.S. Minister to France. Thomas Jefferson of Virginia became the third President of the United States. Robert R. Livingston of New York negotiated the Louisiana Purchase as the U.S. Minister to France. And Roger Sherman of Connecticut, considered by many historians to be the greatest of all the patriots, is the only person to sign all four of the United States state papers: the Articles of Association in 1774, the Declaration of Independence in 1776, the Articles of Confederation in 1781, and the United States Constitution in 1789. It should be noted that on July 4th, 1826, Adams and Jefferson died within 5 hours of one another. One final point of local interest. 3 signers of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Haywood Jr., Arthur Middleton, and Edward Rutledge, were captured and arrested during the siege of Charleston, which occurred in late spring of 1780. They were then transported to St. Augustine, where they were held for the remainder of the Revolutionary War. And I know you will join me in wishing that God bless America. Thank you.
We will now hear from our special guests the reading of the Declaration of Independence. Today will be joining me the Honorable Robert Cuff, Palm Coast City Council. Please come up. The Honorable Heidi Shipley, Palm Coast City Council. The Honorable Nicholas Clufus, Palm Coast City Council. The Honorable Stephen Nobile, Palm Coast City Council. The Honorable Melissa Moore Stens, Flagler County Judge. The Honorable Katie Lenhart, Flagler County Supervisor of Elections. The Honorable Charles Erickson, Flagler County Commissioner. The Honorable Gregory Hansen, Flagler County Commissioner. The Honorable David Sullivan, Flagler County Commissioner. The Honorable Nate McLaughlin, Flagler County Commissioner, Chair. The Honorable Donald O'Brien, Flagler County Commissioner. The Honorable Tom Bexley, Flagler County Clerk of the Circuit Court. The Honorable Andy Dance, Flagler County School Board. And last but not least, our very own Sheriff, Honorable Rick Staley, Flagler County Sheriff. On a warm, humid Philadelphia morning, the members of the Second Continental Congress gathered together and pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. As they signed their names to this declaration, the sun began to rise on a new nation, an American nation. Thomas Jefferson wrote with such incredible passion and eloquence about human liberation and the promise of a democratic republic. scholars believe Jefferson intended the Declaration to be performed, not just read. Its words and rhythm were written to be spoken in proud and defiant tones in grand public places. On this glorious day, we honor the sacred words of this document in celebration of our freedom. Here now are those sentiments expressed on this day in 1776.
In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter it, or to abolish it, or to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish their right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only.
He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries.
He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out of their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. He has effected to render the military independent of the superior to civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation.
For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial, from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us, in many cases, of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in the neighboring province, establishing therein arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule in these colonies.
For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation.
He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He's excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be ruler of free people.
Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends.
We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do.
And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
We will now hear from the Palm Coast Community Band, God Bless America.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair. Let's raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, through the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, through the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Wow, I'm glad we didn't miss that. Thank you. We'll now hear the Stars and Stripes Forever with the Palm Coast Community Band. I want to thank you for everyone for attending our ceremony today. Please be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you.